All right. So, yeah, good evening to all of you. Let's start. Let's start with chanting. So first we shall chant Narayana Suktam, verse 6 and 7, which we have already learned to chant. Okay. So we shall chant together. Anantam Abhayam Kavigam Samudrentam Vishwasambhuvam Padmakosha Pratikashagam Hridayam Chapyodhomukham Adho Nishtya Vitasyante Nabhyam Uparitishthati Jalamala Kulam Bhati Vishwasyaya Tanam Mahata. So this verse 6, 7, and 8 together, these three are speaking about the heart space, the space center. Okay. And the idea is to that spirit, that consciousness, which is all pervading, is also that can also be experienced in our heart center. And these three verses describe the heart center. And it compares that heart center as a lotus bud, inverted lotus bud. So that continues, and first let's read out the English of 8th verse. Surrounded on all sides by nerve currents or arteries, the lotus bud of the heart is suspended in an inverted position. In it is a subtle space, a narrow aperture, the Sushumna Nadi, and therein is to be found the substratum of all things. So this is the central idea of entire Upanishad, that the ultimate being, which is everywhere, is also at our heart center. Okay, now verse number 8, first call and response. Santatagam Shilabhistu Santatagam Shilabhistu Lambatya Kosha Sannibham Lambatya Kosha Sannibham Tasyante Shushiragam Shukshmam Tasyante Shushiragam Shukshmam Tasmiin Sarvam Pratishtitam Tasmiin Sarvam Pratishtitam. Let's try to chant together. Santatagam Shilabhistu Lambatya Kosha Sannibham Tasyante Shushiragam Shukshmam Tasmiin Sarvam Pratishtitam. Once more. Santatagam Shilabhistu Lambatya Kosha Sannibham Tasyante Shushiragam Shukshmam Tasmiin Sarvam pratishtitam. All right. Narada Bhakti Sutra that we are studying now. So last day we saw that Narada says that one of the reasons why success in bhakti is easier than other paths is in this path there is peace and supreme bliss. Peace and bliss. And while we try to go deeper into the idea of peace, what really brings peace? And we try to see that, with bhakti comes a sense of security. And with bhakti comes a kind of desirelessness. All these things makes peace so tangible in the path of bhakti. Another reason why peace is easier to achieve in bhakti, path of bhakti is, in bhakti, gradually the devotee learns to surrender everything to God. And with surrender, one thing happens is the devotee goes beyond worries and anxieties. That is another reason why in the path of bhakti, peace is so easier than in other paths. And that is how the true devotee goes beyond anxieties. That is the subject of the next aphorism. That is aphorism 61. Okay. Aphorism 61. So 61 and 62 together, they deal with loko vyabhahara or loko hano. That is, this is a very loaded term. It means worldly concerns or public opinion, or it also means our material prosperity, anything related to our material well-being, as well as the miseries of the world, problems of the world. So what a devotee does about that. So aphorism 61 and 62. 61 says, Loko hano chinta na karya nivedita atma loka veda tvat. Let us try to read it together. Loko hano chinta na karya nivedita atma loka veda tvat. A devotee, these two words we have to supply to this aphorism. A devotee does not karya entertain chinta anxiety loko hano for worldly things. So loko hano, the word means many things. It is impossible to bring all the meanings into the translation. So for the time being, we are taking it as worldly things. Later on, we shall see. Tvat, because nivedita, they surrender to God. Atma, their very self. Loka, worldly concerns. Veda, and religious duties. A devotee does not entertain anxiety for worldly things because they surrender to God their very self, worldly concerns, and religious duties. Let's try to see in deep. What does it mean? So this aphorism tells us that why an ideal bhakta? That is, a bhakta who has reached the goal. Let us remember, one who has already surrendered. We are trying to surrender. Okay. So why an ideal bhakta is free from anxiety about worldly things. That is a devotee who has reached the goal. A devotee who has already reached the state of para-bhakti, supreme devotee. And for us, this is an ideal to emulate or practice. That is where we want to go. So the word chinta is very important. Chinta means worries or anxiety. And the difference of anxiety with planning. Planning is deliberate. Anxiety is uncontrollable. And it is fine, rather necessary, to plan for worldly things such as our future, social problems, etc. But anxiety is what really sucks up our energy, and it is a really killer for real action. So a devotee has surrendered their everything to God. Say that's why they don't have anxiety. Anxiety about what? Narada says, loko hano. Loko hano for worldly things. Now the word loko and hano combined together, loko hano. The word loka can mean public or worldly or social. And hano means loss or problem or crisis. So loko hano can mean anxiety about one's material loss or personal loss. What will be my future? Or anxiety about material things. Or anxiety about social approval. How people think about me. How will they judge me? That also might mean loko hano. Or anxiety about other people. Or anxiety about social miseries or problems of the world, especially problems which are beyond our immediate control. Narada says a true devotee does not have anxieties about these things. Why? Because they have surrendered three things. One, their very self. That is, they have surrendered themselves to God, placed themselves under the care of God. Because of that, they are not anxious about their personal loss or their future. They know that we are under care of God. So whatever happens to us is by God's will, and God knows best what is best for us. Even for the time being, it might seem painful. Let me remind you about a similar idea in Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 6, Sri Krishna says that about this state, when we have reached the goal, yam labdha chaparam labham mannate nadhikam tatah yasmin sthito na dukkheno guruna api vichalyate. That is, attaining which one does not consider any other attainment to be superior to that, and more importantly, remaining in which one is not shaken even by great calamity. Such a devotee has a firm conviction that everything that I have in my life now is through God's grace alone. If I lose anything, it is by the will of God alone, and God will do whatever is best for me. They have conviction about this. So Narada is speaking about here such devotees who have such kind of firm conviction. So they goes beyond anxieties about their future or personal loss. An example I told you even in last class about Swami Ranganathanandji, who had no care about his future, what will happen to his health or even to his life. Another example is we find in Sri Ramakrishna's life when he was priest at the Dakshineshwar temple, and there was a miscommunication. Some other priest was to be told to leave the temple, and the messenger conflated, and he came to Sri Ramakrishna and told, you have to leave the temple garden. The authorities are not happy with you. So Sri Ramakrishna immediately takes a towel on his shoulders and starts walking away. So without thinking what will happen if I leave this place, just started walking. Then he could not reach, of course, even the main gate. The misunderstanding was realized, and immediately someone ran and said, no, it is not you. It was not you. It was meant for someone else. Then he smiled and he said, oh, all right. Okay, then I am coming back. So that is what happens to a true devotee. They can become absolutely anxiety-free, worryless about their personal prospect or future or even their loss. Secondly, Loka, they have the aphorism says Atma, Loka, Veda. Atma, we have seen, they have surrendered themselves. Next, Loka, they have surrendered their worldly concerns, that is, others' opinion about me. Whether they praise me, they censure me. A devotee has no such concern. Again, Sri Ramakrishna, great example. So when he was the priest of the Dakshineshwar and was engaged in spiritual practices so much, that is, of course, after he already had a vision of Mother Kali, but he wanted to experience God in all other paths, through all other paths or through all other ways. So people used to call him crazy Brahmin of Dakshineshwar, crazy Brahmin. And what was his reply? His reply was great. He said, in this world, all are crazy. Some crazy for wealth, some crazy for fame, or some crazy for something else. I am crazy for God. Okay, let it be so. So he had no concern about what people talked about they used to say, too much of spirituality. Too much of spirituality is not good. You are neglecting many worldly things you should be careful about. That's why they told him the crazy Brahmin of Dakshineshwar. And he said, good, everyone is crazy, and I am also crazy for God. So worldly concern also means the concern for the miseries of the world, such as the crisis that face the innocent people. We see now, for just now, a crisis is being faced in one part of the world. So about such crises, what such a devotee does. So they do whatever they can do and surrender their worries to God. And if they can't do anything, they sincerely pray for their well-being. So even they are touched by the miseries of the world, misery of innocent people, but they are not anxious about that. Then they have surrendered Vedas, that is scriptural injunctions. So this does not make much sense now. When this aphorism was composed, usually the life used to be regulated by Vedic injunctions like do's and don'ts. Narada says that when a devotee had reached the goal of bhakti, they are imbued with this powerful emotion called bhakti, then they are no longer able to follow those injunctions. Example again, Sri Ramakrishna was very particular about worship when he started doing worship as a priest, but he reached a state when he could no longer follow the prescribed ways of worship. We know, right? Sometimes he would go, and one day he offered the food he was to be offered to Mother Kali to a cat, because I saw mother in cat. Now for others who were looking at it, it was sacrilegious what he is doing. But he has gone beyond Vedas. That is, they have surrendered even Vedas. Vedas means, the guide of our life, about a point when it used to mean so. So even that authority, Vedic authorities, they have gone beyond. Another day, someone saw that Sri Ramakrishna started doing worship, sat on the asana, but then instead of worshipping Mother Kali, he started worshipping himself. Okay, God within. So these who don't have the idea, such experiences, to them, this will be sacrilegious. So, and Narada says, since such a devotee has surrendered everything, their personal self, their very self, their concern for the world, and even the do's and don'ts, therefore, they have no anxiety for world. So the point is, a true devotee has surrendered everything to God. They are concerned for themselves, public opinion, religiosity. So they no longer are worried about those things. And from such surrender comes unsurpassable peace. Now the question is, what about us? What can we do about our anxieties? Because we have not reached that state yet. So then the answer is, we have to keep on practicing this. Okay, giving our worries, transferring our worries to God. And what happens is we shall give and again take back the worries, anxieties, because we don't have faith, that strong faith, that since once I have given my worries, surrendered my worries to God, God will take care of it. But still, we have to keep on trying it. One example I would like to give from my own life, that was really an eye-opener for me. When I was in Belur Math at the headquarters, the work pressure was very intense, very intense. And there were many pending work, urgent, but I could not complete, it used to be pending. So in the evening after office, I used to go back to my room and started set for meditation, but again, those anxieties will come back. What will happen to that work, this work? So what I started, just as a practice, I started surrendering all these anxieties to Sri Ramakrishna. But still, I would find that I am still worrying. Still, those anxieties are haunting me. Then I thought, what is happening here? So let me do something very concrete. Let me do something very concrete. And at that time, I was very young, maybe 25, 26. So let me do something concrete. Why I am not able to totally depend on Sri Ramakrishna, surrendering my anxieties at the same time, not able to depend on. So I started writing a journal. Okay. Number one, number two, anxiety, number one, this is the anxiety. I mean, this is the thought that is troubling me, source of anxiety. That's a column. And there's a date. And my action, I surrendered it to Sri Ramakrishna, saying this. And there was a column left for future work. What happened to that particular source of anxiety? The thing that I was anxious about. What happens to that? What happens to that problem in future? So, and I kept that journal for about 6-7 months. And I found that I noted down kind of 38 or 40 real worries. And all of them were solved. Okay, all of them were solved in time. And some of them was not even what I was worrying about did not even take place. Okay, so that, that tangible journal, that tangible spreadsheet gave me a momentum, or you say encourage me, that surrendering really helps. Surrendering really helps. We just, we need to keep on surrendering. We need to keep on surrendering. It does not happen overnight. And still, can I say that I can surrender everything? No, I cannot. I cannot. I still might have worries about, but I am now more certain, I am now more encouraged that surrendering helps. Okay, so it comes in degrees. So that is the lesson for us, that a true devotee is not anxious about anything which is not directly related to their spiritual goal or spiritual growth. So they do whatever they are required to do, or whatever they can do, and leave the rest at the hands of the divine. Sri Ramakrishna said, Sri Ramakrishna humorously said that worries surrendered to God, okay, or offer them to God, your worries. And he said, God is a good person. God is a good person. So definitely God will take care of it. So that is the probably lesson for us, that we have to keep on surrendering our anxieties, worries, keep on surrendering. The process will be back and forth. We shall give back, give, surrender, and again take back. Take the anxieties on our shoulders. Okay, but in the process, we grow. So next aphorism speaks more about this, that what a spiritual aspirant should do about their worldly duties, or how should they deal with the world. That is the next aphorism, aphorism 62. It's a longer aphorism. Na tat siddho loko vyavaharo heyaha kintu phalatyagaha tat sadhanam cha karyam eva. Let's chant it together, read it together. Na tat siddho loka vyavaharo heyaha kintu phalatyagaha tat sadhanam cha karyam eva. Tat siddho. Siddhi in the word, achievement. Tat siddho. For the success in bhakti, loka vyavahara. Worldly duties. Na should not be heyaha, abundant. Kintu, but phala tyagaha. All such actions should be dedicated to God. Cha and tat sadhanam, spiritual practices, eva, should be karyam, continued. So, for the success in bhakti, worldly duties should not be abandoned, but all such actions should be dedicated to God, and spiritual practices should be continued. So tat siddho means for the success in bhakti. So an aspirant may, in the path of bhakti, may ask what they should do about their worldly duties. So for the success in bhakti, yes, we want to success in the path of bhakti, but we have other concerns too. Earlier, Narada said that one-pointed devotion, spend all your day and night in the thought of God. Then what about our worldly duties? So for the success of bhakti, for the path, success in the path of bhakti, should we abandon all these things? The answer is, the worldly duties should not be abandoned. Loko vyavahara na heyaha. Worldly duties should not be abandoned. So the word loko vyavahara also means not only worldly duties, but also worldly dealings, social responsibilities. Narada says the devotee should continue to perform all their duties, maintain relationships, and continue to do whatever they can do in social welfare to the best of their capabilities. Sri Ramakrishna, says, again humorously, that someone said that what happens to a person after illumination? Should they care for their parents or families and things like that? Then Sri Ramakrishna says that if a clerk, office clerk, goes to jail and then again released from jail, what else does he do? Does he dance? He goes back to work again. Okay, he goes back to, he keeps on doing what he was doing. So worldly duties, responsibilities should not be abandoned. Prime example is Holy Mother Sarada Devi, right? So even after having so much of samadhis and other spiritual experiences, Holy Mother used to care for one and all, even strangers, and most importantly, difficult people. Some of the people she had to deal with in her day-to-day life were not nice to her. They were very, very difficult people. Holy Mother continued to do all those things, taking as her responsibility, as duty. So that is the point, that these should not be abandoned. But there is a but. The but is important. Those responsibilities and duties should not become an end in themselves for a devotee. Those duties are needed to be performed well so that we can peacefully spend time with God. And it is not an easy thing. Indeed, it is not an easy thing. Sri Ramakrishna says that one who can, remaining in the midst of so many responsibilities that a householder's life implies, a social life implies, and still can even snatch away some time to think about God, to that person I call a hero. You know, that person is a hero. So indeed, it is heroic that continuing to do our responsibilities, our duties, some of them are not pleasant, and still managing to think of God. That is a heroic work. Sri Ramakrishna says that suppose someone has abandoned everything and become a monk or nun. So what is the greatness in that? Such a person should remember God all the time. There is no something speciality about that. In Bengali, he said no bahaduri. That is, it is not something very great. But what is to be praised and appreciated is even remaining or doing all one's duties and still making time to remember God. So it is not easy thing, but we also should remember that doing social duties, performing social duties are not an end in themselves. Secondly, what Narada says, phalotyaga, that is, all those such actions should be dedicated to God. All such duties and responsibilities should be performed with a sense of dedication to God. That means, again, not to be anxious about them. Okay, so do your best, try your best, and leave rest in the hands of God. Sri Ramakrishna, someone asked Sri Ramakrishna that how should a devotee deal with difficult people? And his answer is very remarkable, I would say, very remarkable, and especially for a devotee to remember. He said, try to be friendly with everybody. Okay. And if someone is not friendly and difficult, try in the beginning to be friendly with them and do whatever you can do. But even if your trial, even after you have tried, you see that this is not working, then forget about that. Forget about reconciliation. Because the mind which you are supposed to give to God, the same mind, how many such things you should harbor? Okay, so your mind is a precious thing in the sense that with this mind, you will be thinking about God. And in the same mind, if you try to harbor about these things, which in the ultimate sense, which in the sense of, your ultimate spiritual goal does not matter much, then why should you bother so much about it? But again, try to be friendly, try to reconcile your problems and differences, but only that much, only that much, only that much which we can do comfortably without disturbing our mind so much that we cannot give our mind to God. So that is the point. And another thing he said, not only do all those things and dedicate them to God, but spiritual practices should be continued. Tat sadhanam cha karyam eva. That is, it might mean go on performing your duties as well as your spiritual sadhana that we have learned so far, bhakti sadhana, right? Taking God's name, singing God's name, reading their divine Leela, doing holy company. So keep on doing your duties, social responsibilities, social dealings. At the same time, keep on doing your spiritual sadhana until you have reached the goal. Second meaning is these duties, these responsibilities, these dealings are themselves spiritual sadhana. Okay. When done in the spirit of serving the Lord, or these are kind of, we may say that to give an kind of example or metaphor, in any worship we need so many things, right? Flowers and incense and food and things. So can we just think about all these duties or all these social responsibilities? These are the upachar. These are the items with which I am worshipping God. Worshipping God. So that will help us to grow spiritually. I remember in this connection, Swami Sarvagatananda ji was a great Swami. He was in Boston for 50 years. And he joined at a very young age, probably 19, at Haridwar. Our Haridwar, we have a hospital, charitable hospital, which was even till few years ago, only hospital in that whole region. Okay, and it does a great service, totally free treatment it gives to poor people all around, and most sophisticated hospital in that part. So there he joined, and I forgot the name of the Swami, probably Swami Nishchalananda or Nishchayananda, who founded the hospital at the behest of Swami Vivekananda. He was Swami Vivekananda's disciple. Swami Vivekananda said, go there and start a hospital. And don't come back to Bengal ever. And that he followed. He never came back, returned to Bengal, his home state. He spent his whole life in founding the hospital and serving the poor. So it's a story. It's so inspiring a story how at the beginning, two Swamis were there. They used to walk and find patients who were lying helplessly. In their shoulders, they used to carry the patients and bring to the hospital to treat them. To such an extent they used to go. So that Swami told our Swami Sarvagatananda ji that Swami Kallanananda and Swami Nishchayananda, right? Thank you, Subhash, for reminding me. So that Swami told our Sarvagatananda ji, look, In that ashrama, there was a temple, beautiful, nice temple. Here is our temple. Here you worship the Lord with flower, incense, food, sweet, sandal paste. And here is our hospital. Here you serve the Lord with medicine, with saline water, with injections, and never have any doubt in your mind that both are of the same type of worship. Never harbor any doubt about that. So Sarvagatanji really did like that. I mean, it's a saga. It's a saga, came out as a book and worth reading again and again. The name of the booklet rather, was You Will Be a Paramahamsa. You will be a Paramahamsa. Wonderful, a saga, how they served people. And not only that, some of this encounter, they recollect some of the patients which were very unruly patients, and how with love and care and affection, even the unruly patients became very good patients with love and affection. So that is the point, that these duties, social responsibilities, dealings that we are doing, can these be regarded or done as spiritual practice? That is what Narada says, that performing one's duties in proper attitude does not affect one's spiritual growth, does not hold someone from reaching their goal. They should never be abandoned, but they should be done in a spirit of dedication to God, and should be remembered that they are not end in themselves. So they are spiritual practice to reach our real goal, that is Para-Bhakti. So Aphorism 61 and 62, these two together say that a true devotee does not become anxious about any material loss or social responsibilities or public opinion, because they have surrendered their everything to God. Until one has reached such a state of complete surrender, one should continue to perform their family and social responsibilities with a spirit of dedication to God. Next two aphorisms will be about what a devotee should refrain from. Okay, that we shall see not next week. Next week, Friday is 4th March, we shall have in the evening Sri Ramakrishna's birthday celebration next Friday at 7:30. And that will be in person. We are going back to in-person mode from March. So we won't be able to meet next Friday, but the following Friday, that is 11th, we shall meet them. Do you have questions or comments? You can share your thoughts on that, these discussions.
Maharaj, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
In the path of bhakti, they're saying that you should not leave the worldly activities, and one should continue with that and surrender all the thought and actions to God. But in the practical world, it is very difficult. And one side, we are saying that we need satsang and other things. And that slowly what does is it takes you away from the worldly joys. means world interaction and everything. So sometimes it is difficult at what point you put your devotion path ahead of the worldly duties and tasks. This is
No, there is no doubt about it is not an easy thing. That's why I told about Sri Ramakrishna. That is, it requires to be a hero to be doing that. Okay. So yes, it is indeed not so easy thing. But again, this is a spiritual practice in itself, doing our duties and in the spirit of that these duties are spiritual practice. Okay. But I don't see any easy shortcut to that. This is indeed a difficult thing. In fact, frankly speaking, this is why I became a monk. I knew that it will be much more difficult to pursue spiritual path remaining in the world. Okay. I know it is possible, but difficult. That's why I chose to be a monk. But it is not impossible at the same time. It is not impossible. There are examples amongst us here itself that who does really live a great spiritual life. So it is not easy. To the answer is, it is not easy thing. Sure.
Thank you.
Yes. What is the difference between bhakti and karma yoga then? Yes. When karma yoga means the goal is to purify the mind. Okay. When it is done for bhakti, okay, bhakti as the goal, then it becomes a different yoga. In fact, Swami Vivekananda, I missed the point I wanted to tell you. In fact, previously, everything was thought of like the Karma Yoga concept of Bhagavad Gita was mainly to purify your mind. Okay. When we purify our mind, then other things will become easier. Bhakti or Jnana. That was the traditional idea. Swami Vivekananda said that serving others with this conviction or idea that they are none other than Brahman or God, this itself will take us to realization. It is not indirect path, it is a direct path. Okay, so we should say this is Seva Yoga, a new yoga Swami Vivekananda introduced. Okay, serving others as God. Or this idea of, whatever you do, surrender to me, we find it in the Bhagavad Gita. We find that in the Bhagavad Gita. It is also a concept of the yajna. So Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga in that sense are not same. Okay, Karma Yoga is mainly when I am doing something unselfishly. And Bhakti, Karma Yoga can be done by a Bhakta too. Okay. And when we are talking about yoga, we are speaking about paths. Okay. And Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga overlaps here. When we do the Karma Yoga in the spirit of surrender to God. The class won't be in person. This class will continue over the Zoom. Okay. Someone asked the question. Any other question or comment or?
Yes, Swami.
Yes, please go ahead, Gunamai.
Could you please repeat the spreadsheet idea? That was very helpful. Could you repeat it?
Oh yeah, make a spreadsheet, or journal, make a few columns like anxiety number 1, date. What is the specific anxiety about? Okay, I am worrying that I won't be able to complete this work in 7 days or 2 days. Okay, and another column, what I did. That is, yes, I surrendered it to Sri Ramakrishna, but with some specific specific words or specific ideas in mind. I surrendered it, help me to complete it. Okay, and there will be a final column, what happened to the problem, and go back after some time. In retrospect, we can see whether the problem got solved or the problem was a real problem. So I believe that in most of the cases, at least more than 95% of cases, we shall see our anxieties were unwarranted. The problems got naturally solved or sometimes mysteriously solved. Okay, and not only that, we shall find sometimes what we were thinking something as problem was rather turned out to be an opportunity. It rather might have opened another door for us. Okay, that can be written in the remarks column. The last column, remarks.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, you're welcome. I went to yoga therapy for pain management several years ago. The therapist told me during the relaxation part to imagine my favorite god and to ask them to hold everything, worries and anxieties and pain, just for the duration of relaxation, yoga nidra, and that you will take it back after the exercise was done. But I am very grateful for you sharing the journaling to tackle worries. Yes, thanks for sharing with us. So what she says is that she went to a pain management therapy long ago, that during the relaxation part of yoga nidra, the therapist asked her that hold everything, worries, anxieties, and pain just for the duration of the yoga to God. Okay. That's a nice thing, and that it helped her. So she went for a pain management therapy where the therapist told her during the relaxation period of yoga nidra, you tell your favorite god to hold for the time being, as long as I am doing the yoga, to hold the anxieties, pains, and worries, and that helped her. Okay, so this is a good idea. Even for a few seconds, can we let it go and trust God to hold it for us? Someone also commented that they write letters, all their worries, anxieties, to God as letters, and keep the letters with them, but they write long letters to their favorite deity. Writing letters. So journaling, writing letters, whatever it is. All right, very good. Then see you in 2 weeks, and maybe even before that, if you come for our celebrations, whosoever can come. Before that, of course, we have on 1st March, Shivaratri, evening Shivaratri, worship of Lord Shiva, next Tuesday. All right, then we shall try to do some kindness and affectionate meditation tonight. Sending affection, compassion, and kindness towards others. Take a minute of break, then we shall join the meditation. Thank you. All right.